Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. And we are back for our state by state alphabetical Dogman subscriber submissions. Before we get into today's upload, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below, my merch displayed directly under this video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? Today's first New Mexico subscriber submission. Greetings, Jeff. I'm writing you today to start a correspondence about what I believe is an ongoing Dogman activity in southern New Mexico over the last year and a half. I apologize for taking so long to get back to you. This time of year always manages to kick my butt time-wise. I don't really know where to start, so I guess at the beginning would be good. Many years ago, I had a Dogman experience while I was still in high school. I accidentally discovered that you had narrated my experience while I was searching for information on Dogman encounters local to me. I'm the girl from the third encounter on your video, Dogman Encounters in Southwestern America, posted on March 6, 2018. I still live in southern New Mexico, although a fair bit away from where I had my personal encounter all those years ago. I actually live in Roswell, New Mexico now. Yeah, that Roswell. And have been here for a better part of the last 20 years. About a year and a half ago, a young lady got in contact with me over a strange set of occurrences that were happening at her house on the outskirts of town. For a couple of nights, she had been hearing a large animal climbing up the side of her home and clattering all over her roof. Now, New Mexico is still a pretty wild place, even close to town. So at first, she just assumed she had a large raccoon messing around. On the third night, however, things got really scary for her. Now this woman is a nurse and lives alone and does not seem like the type to get spooked by ordinary animals. She said she was on her laptop late at night when she heard something clawing at her screen door, making it thump back and forth. Both the doors were locked from the inside because she was getting a little nervous with all of the noise at night. She said she put her laptop down and walked into the kitchen, flicked her porch light on so she could get a better look at whatever was messing around on her property. She only saw it for a moment before it dashed away, but that was long enough to scare her out of her wits and house for a full week before contacting me. She said that when she turned on the lights, she saw a large canine with patchy fur, strange legs, angrily tearing at her screen door with its hands and teeth. I asked her why she said hands at the time, and she said that it had toes too long to be anything but fingers. She said the fur was dark, but its skin was lighter and showed through all over its body. She estimated it to weigh at least 200 pounds. And, as seems to be the theme with what is being spotted down here, had back legs that were way too long and spindly. After helping this lady out, I put the feelers out. I kept my ears open for any other incidences that had or may occur. The second report I got was from a couple driving around late one night last summer. They were heading home from a movie and were driving through a part of town that is mostly industrial lots and open fields when they saw what they thought was a dog hunkered down on the side of the road. They slowed down, not wanting to hit it, as it was very close to the road, and got a very good look at it when it dashed off. They described it as having sickly long dark fur, weird wide shoulders, a strange gait because of its long back legs, and an almost human-looking short muzzle. They also described it as being very big and were both still really upset when I talked with them just hours after their encounter. Now, I need you to understand the area where this couple saw this creature is well within city limits. It's not a highly populated area, but it is still within walking distance of a school, a convenience store, a bank, and a bar. I have two more incidences to write out to you. I'm very tired. I may save them for later this week when I have a few more spoons. I will be in contact again, I promise. Until again. I need to contact this person because I have not heard back from them since. I do believe they are still in the community, but possibly, I'm not really sure if they are or not. I'm going to contact her and see if everything is okay, because that's an older subscriber submission. So today's second New Mexico subscriber submission. My cousin and I were traveling through Santa Fe, New Mexico. It was 1 in the morning. Me and my cousin were just dicking around about how creepy the desert was at that time of the night. Next thing we knew, we saw something off in the distance. It was heading to our car at an alarming pace. It got right beside us and kept pace. We were going 70 miles an hour. It looked over and gave us this demonic smile, sped up, and darted across the road. It was in our headlights for a couple of seconds. Within that couple of seconds, we caught a few details. It looked like a jackal from Egyptian lore, but with more muscle tone and fur to it, lest, say, we put the pedal to the metal and got out of there. Till we got to the next town, we then waited until sunrise to continue our trip. Today's third New Mexico subscriber encounter. Hey Jeff, back in 2005, I agreed to house sit for a week for a friend who lived in a small town in Chimayo, New Mexico. I lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico, so this was going to be a fun week for me and my dogs, as they could run and play with her dogs on a beautiful 5 acres of land. I still had to commute from Santa Fe for my job, but that was no problem for me. My experience happened on a Wednesday fall morning on my way to work. In order to get to work on time, I had to leave very early. It was not dark, and the sun had not set in yet, but I had a good visual of my surroundings. I was driving my truck down the side dirt road from her house that met with a main paved road. As I was approaching the stop sign, I looked across the main road at a big pasture. I immediately noticed a pack of dogs. In the middle of them was this ginormous dog. They were eating something. They didn't notice me whatsoever. Suddenly, I felt this dread come over me. I made sure my truck doors were locked. I couldn't move. That's when I noticed the haunch shoulders on this beast and how scary and ugly it was. It resembled a hyena, but not quite, because the head looked like a wolf. It was on all fours. Driving the long drive to Santa Fe, I tried to understand what I saw. I finally convinced myself that what I saw was just an inbred dog. When I got to work, I was not my usual chatty self. When approached by several coworkers, if something was wrong, I told them what I had seen and how scared I felt. But I was met with laughter and pats on the back. Again, I conceived myself that I was making a big deal over a freak of nature. When I arrived back at my friend's house after work, it was already dark. I immediately felt this terrible dread, remembering that ugly beast that I saw. Luckily, my dogs, as well as her dogs, greeted me. I got out of my truck and made a mad dash to her house. I closed all the curtains and made sure all the doors were locked. The next morning, on my way to work, as I was approaching my truck, I felt an overpowering sense of dread again. Her house was next to an irrigation ditch, as most of them are in this town. They're riddled with irrigation ditches, as this town has a lot of farming. It hit me that this beast could come from the irrigation ditch and easily snatch me up, being a small female. I got back into the house, got all the dogs back in, and called in sick. I waited until later that morning to get the dogs and her dogs out of there and headed back to Santa Fe to my place. When my friend returned, she was really put off with me, even to the point of shaming me when I told her why I left her place and could not bring her dogs back. I understood her feelings, as she had not seen this monster. My terrible experience with the Dogman left our friendship fractured. Several months later, I received a call from her. She told me that she had moved back to California to be close to her family. I was shocked because she really loved Chimayo, New Mexico. She told me that she had encountered the Dogman in an irrigation ditch next to her home. Today's fourth New Mexico subscriber submission. Hey Jeff, I can tell you only one story of a werewolf in White Mountains. A buddy of mine, he's an Apache in Navajo descent. His dad told us he was traveling from the White Mountains late midnight hours, traveling slow on the winding roads that weaved through the thickly forested White Mountains in a pickup truck. He heard something bang on the back of the bed of his truck. He switched on the cargo light and was staring at what he called a werewolf-type creature. He freaked out, nearly going off the road. In his attempt to correct the truck swerving, the creature was thrown out onto the roadside. He's a man of integrity. He was not one to BS anyone. Some Apache friends I have had confirmed the history of this creature dating way back. A creature of half man, half wolf in appearance. There is also a Bigfoot-type creature as well seen by the Apache, and also that live among the waterways on the Navajo Nation. The creatures in that religion are said to be tall, lanky, shiny, and not so thick, shaggy hair. I know a Navajo woman whose family told her of some that live around Farmington, New Mexico, along the remote small creeks that flow year-round. I have not seen any of these creatures. I have experienced hauntings on my property in the remote region of South and the Petrified Forest. There is Anasazi ruins everywhere there. Pottery, lying around everywhere, arrowheads, all kinds of artifacts. I've watched ghostly orbs floating around the main ruin one night. In particular, 100 or so little white glowing round balls of light dancing on the hilltop where the large ruin site sits. I moved on top of the hill in the last few years of me being on the property, which I've lived on for over half my life. I had respect not to move on the hilltop for many, many years. I had gotten a bigger trailer, and the only place flat enough for it, it was very long, was on the hilltop aside of where the main ruin site was. I feel I broke a sacred promise I made to myself and moved up there, and our home became very haunted, noises and things that go bump in the night. There was strong energy. There they could touch me many times. Most of the paranormal activity occurred after 1 a.m. till just before dawn. Believe it or not, you actually become used to it and live with it. There was a solar light that ended up under the trailer. It stayed there for years. It was always on. That little light never went out, even in the frigid winter. Not ever seeing daylight to charge that battery, but nonetheless, that little light never went dark. It was being energized from the ground. My son and I lived there. I became very sick, and I still am sick. I moved to town about a year ago and sold my property that I owned for over 26 years. I paid $14,000 for the land, and I just sold for $5,000. The spirit of the Anasazi not only can torment you while awake, but can haunt your dreams with very dark things. I lived at peace for many, many years out there, being blessed with gifts from the spirit world until I broke my pack and moved on sacred ground. There is too much to tell you about. I cannot type that much, Jeff. There is dark things here, gorgeous, beautiful country as well. One needs to be careful what they touch or where they go. It can cost you a life, and it is real as you and me. Myself and a friend entered a haunted place of Anasazi. I left tobacco offerings while he scoffed at what I was doing. This 26-year-old died of mysterious causes not long after that night. I am sorry, what I have to say tonight is not exciting, but it's the truth. I will stay in touch with you if that's cool. Take care, your friend and avid listener, WR. Today's final New Mexico subscriber submission. Back in July of 2009, my friend Kelly reached out to me via email, inviting me over to her house that her and her husband Don had just moved into to Tesuque, New Mexico. They used to live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but had been looking for a house to rent that also had horse stables on the property. They used to boarder their 3 horses at a horse boarding facility in Santa Fe. Now, the both of them can have their horses close by. We made plans for me to arrive with my 2 dogs, a large German Shepherd mix and my 6-month-old Chow puppy mix, Saturday evening, and spend the night. The plan was that we get up early, saddle up on the horses, and do some trail riding with the dogs. I was looking forward to the adventure. On my way out to Santa Fe that Saturday evening, I stopped at a grocery mart and picked up a rotisserie chicken to make fajitas with for dinner. I was enjoying the scenery until I passed this house that had a bunch of naked dolls with messy hair leaning against a chain-link fence surrounding the house in a rather grotesque poses. It was very creepy. When I arrived at their home, as I was pulling into their driveway, I suddenly felt like something was off. I had an overwhelming desire to back out and leave when I saw my friend at the door waving at me. As I walked up to the front door with my gang and the rotisserie chicken in my arms, the thought crossed my mind that I probably was just creeped out from seeing those dolls. While we all hugged, I noticed how tired and stressed Don and Kelly looked. I was led into the kitchen to put the rotisserie chicken on the counter before I was given a grand tour. During the tour, I could not help but notice that their otherwise friendly and playful dogs were slinking around with their tails between their legs. My dogs were quickly doing the same. After the tour, Don suggested that we get going on the fajitas as the smell of the chicken was making him hungry. During dinner, I mentioned that I was getting nervous vibes from both of them and the dogs. I wanted to know if something was wrong. They proceeded to tell me that they think that they have something demonic in their house. They've been hearing it since they had moved in. They explained to me that they could hear this evil laugh at night. Wow, not what I expected to hear. After cleaning up, we went into the living room. No sooner than I sat down on the sofa, all the dogs joined me and huddled close to me. I was talking to Don and Kelly, who were each sitting in separate recliners across from me, when I noticed a dark mass slowly go across the wall behind them, and I gasped. The dogs noticed it as well, causing the pup on my lap to turn around and bury a head into my arm. She was shivering like a leaf. She was very scared. They both stood up and turned around and saw the black mass on the wall moving slowly back and forth. Kelly screamed loudly and jumped on the sofa next to me. Don stood frozen. The black mass slowly morphed into a silhouette of a classic witch with a hat, large crooked nose, pointed chin. Then it started to cackle. Needless to say, we were scared. I suggested we all leave and go back to my place. I offered for them to stay until they worked out a solution to this very scary problem. Luckily for them, the apartment they moved out of was still available, so they were able to move out quickly from that house with help of myself and several other friends. Of interest, while moving them out, a neighbor came over and asked Don if the reason he was moving out was due to the witch on the wall in the living room. As soon as Don said yeah, the neighbor told us that the previous owner of the home was a lady that claimed to be a witch. She started to dabble with the dark side. At some point, it was too much for her. so she took her own life in the living room. Her family tried to sell the house, but it would not sell. They decided to rent it instead. He said that nobody ever stays long after they see the silhouette of the witch on the wall. So this next part of the upload is going to be about my friend Beau, our friend Beau. Just for everyone's sake, his name is spelled B-E-A-U, not B-O. I thought it was Bew at first. I remember, never forget when I first talked to him. I was like, "What's up, Bew?" Like Buford. But it's Beau. So I received over 26 emails from supposed subscribers. 2 I recognized, and they were very respectful. The 2 that I recognized. JM is one of the initials of one, and oh my goodness, I forgot the other one. If you're a subscriber and you're listening to this and you wrote me an email and you were respectful about Beau, you know I'm talking about you being good and kind. There was 24 others that I did not recognize, and Beau told me this was going to happen. When we talked after, he was like, "Brother, you are going to get a lot of crap for this. I appreciate what you're doing, but things are going to go kind of crappy for you. You probably get phone calls, you'll probably get emails." Well, I did. The day of, man, it was insane. And they weren't rude to me. They were not rude. They were just like he would say. They were just like pleasant towards me, but try to discredit what Beau was saying. Like the molestation charges were not true, and that is a fabrication, and his talk of the cults and occult and this and that, and there is none of that going on, and they do not worship or have any kind of infatuation with pyramids, and they just tried to discredit everything he was talking about. And it really irked me. And you know me, I then immediately went and did some research, and I found out who was the liar. And it was not Beau. It was the 24 other people who emailed me, minus the 2 who were very kind and are subscribers. These others were not. I didn't recognize any of their names, their emails, nothing. It was really creepy because they were really nice. Like really nice to me, but not like, I mean, they weren't aggressive. Well, they were. They were like assertively aggressive, I guess, or passively aggressive toward Beau. But they were like, "There's no way we don't practice or we don't worship anything about pyramids and this and that." And well, you know what? I got proof that you do. And you're lying to me. And you lied to me in my email, and I don't like it when I get lied to and then try to discredit a friend of mine. So, this is what I found when I looked up, and I encourage you guys to do it, because I really encourage you to, because at the end of this one, I'll it's going to shock you. All I did was type in Jehovah's Witness infatuation or study of pyramids, and it just shot up, so this is probably the most in-depth article I found. Pastor Russell Charles Taze Russell, 1852 to 1916, the founder of what eventually became the Watchtower Society, believed that Jesus returned invisibly and spiritually in 1874. This was the beginning of a 40-year harvest period, which would end in 1914 with God's complete overthrow of the nations of the world. In his 1889 book, The Time is at Hand, Studies in the Scriptures, Volume 2, pages 98 through 99, Russell wrote, "True, it is expecting great things to claim, as we do, that within the coming 26 years all present governments will be overthrown and dissolved. But we are living in a special and particular time, the day of Jehovah, in which matters accumulate quickly, and it is written, a short work will the Lord make upon the earth. In view of the strong Bible evidence concerning the times of the Gentiles, we consider it an established truth that the final end of the kingdoms of this world and the full establishment of the kingdom of God will be accompanied at the end of AD 1914. He was convinced that measurements in inches of the main passageway of the Great Pyramid of Giza confirmed these end-time prophecies in his 1881 book, Thy Kingdom Come, Studies of the Scriptures, Volume 3. He called the pyramid God's Stone Witness. Why would this pyramid be confirmation of anything at all? Russell cited Isaiah 19:19 through 20 as his proof text. In that day there shall be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. And it shall be for a sign and a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. He commented, viewed from whatever standpoint we please, the Great Pyramid is certainly the most remarkable building in the world. But in the light of an investigation which has been in progress for the past 32 years, it acquires new interest to every Christian advanced in the study of God's Word. For it seems in a remarkable manner to teach in harmony with all prophets, an outline for the plan of God, past, present, and future, infamous added. Most Jehovah's Witnesses today are unaware of these teachings, or have learned to sanitize versions of Russell's error. However, Russell's earlier followers were so convinced of the truth of Russell's teachings that they erected a man-sized replica of the Great Pyramid on his gravesite. It is there to this day. You can show the picture of it to Jehovah's Witnesses and ask, why is it there? Ask them to explain what the Great Pyramid meant to Russell and to his followers, and on what biblical basis they consider it so significant. This will probably require some research on their part, but an honest examination of this aspect of the Watchtower history can sometimes be helpful in getting Jehovah's Witnesses to question the reliability of the Watchtower organization, as well as the claims to be God's channel of communication in the last days. When you see this picture, when you see the picture of Pastor Russell's pyramid, dude, it's everything that Bo said. And I just said, dude, oh my God, I'm sorry. Guys, it's everything that Bo said. Literally looks like a Masonic pyramid. I was creeped out when I saw it. I was like, oh my goodness. So, I mean, yeah, the young generation may not know this, but the older generation does. And if Bo wasn't who he said he was, and because people were like, that Bo doesn't know what he's talking about. Bo isn't into this. Bo is not doing these investigations. If Bo didn't know, Bo didn't know. If Bo didn't know the truth about this one thing that most young Jehovah's Witnesses don't know about, whatever, the elders do, probably some of them don't because it's old teachings, how would Bo know? Why? Because he's done his research, because he wants to take down this evil organization. I'm not even going to put it as a religion. It's an organization. I found this article. I encourage you guys to really, I'm not leaving links in this. I'm first and foremost not leaving any links because I don't want it to be any part of this channel. If you want to look at it, Google. I'm letting Google Jehovah Witnesses fascination with pyramids. And then if you need to further, you just Google Pastor Russell, Jehovah Witness, pyramid gravestone, so you can see it. But I'm not leaving links, so please don't ask me why I didn't. Because I didn't. Because I'm not having any ties to this garbage. So then I found this very interesting. If you've done enough research on Jehovah Witnesses and their founder Charles Taz Russell, you would know that C.T. Russell was a great enthusiast when it came to Egyptian pyramids. He referred to the Great Pyramid as God's stone witness and prophet, claimed to be able to see divine omens in them, and wrote about them in his work. Interestingly enough, the Watchtower Society has since then disowned these ideas from their own founder and now views the Great Pyramid as Satan's Bible. That's weird, right? But then they erected this, Masonic-looking pyramid over his gravesite. One of the strangest revelations that he's claimed to receive from the pyramid was that he calculated from the length of the passages the date of the end of the world. Okay, now I didn't know, you're not sane when you predict the end of the world because you're measuring a hallway in the pyramids. Unfortunately for good old CT, the prophecy did not come true, and the Watchtower Society had to edit its own official publications to cover his tracks. One of the most telling examples of this is from the publication Thy Kingdom Come in the original 1897 edition. This is what it says. So then, if we measure backward down the first ascending passage to its junction with the entrance passage, we shall have a fixed date to mark upon the downward passage. This measure is 1,542 inches and indicates the year BC 1542 as the date at that point. Then, measuring down the entrance passage from that point to find the distance to the entrance of the pit, representing the great trouble and destruction with which this age is close to. When evil will be overthrown from power, we will find it to be 3,416 inches, symbolizing 3,416 years from the above date BC 1542. This calculation shows AD 1874 as marking the beginning of the period of trouble for 1542 years BC plus 1874 years AD equals 3,416 years. Thus, the pyramid witnesses that the close of 1874 was the chronological beginning of the time of trouble, such as was not since there was a nation, no, nor shall ever be afterward. I didn't misspeak on that. That was the last sentence. Weird. Note that he gets the date for the Great Pyramid wrong. It was actually 2560 BC. But this isn't the biggest problem with what he says. The biggest problem is that he has claimed prophecy never came to pass. After that whole messy affair with the 1914 prophecy, the text in this page was altered, and the 1918 edition now says, so then if we measure backward down the ascending passage to its junction with the entrance passage, we shall have a fixed date to mark upon the downward passage. This measures 1542 inches and indicates the year BC 1542 as the date at that point. Then measuring down the entrance passage from that point to find the distance of the entrance of the pit, in parentheses, representing the great trouble and destruction with which the age is to close, evil will be overthrown from power. We find it at 3,457 inches, symbolizing 3,457 years from the above date, 1542 BC. This calculation shows AD 1915 as marking the beginning of the period of trouble. For 1542 years BC plus 1915 years AD equals 3,457 years. Thus, Pyramid witnesses that the close of 1914 was the chronological beginning of the time of trouble, such as was not since there was a nation, no, nor shall ever be afterward. See, I told you I didn't mess up that last sentence. Anyway, so now they got it wrong. He got it wrong because they're just a cult. And they were like, hey, we have to cover this up, man. Good old CT messed up bad. Messed up bad, bro. And so they fixed it to where, like, now the world's going to end in 3,457. Like, we'll ever know. I mean, and then, I mean, I hope there's people alive still by then, but maybe not. I mean, who will ever know? We won't. So they just like extended the period of time to lie to cover their butts, which all cults do. And if you think about it, like, that's all they do is they lie and they manipulate and they prey on the weak and the young. Just recently, I forgot his name. There was a black pastor, self-proclaimed pastor. He was like he was wanted on child and a bunch of assaults sexually on women as well. In New York City, they had this like kind of temple, and when they got busted or found out, they like moved out of country. Like Jim Jones, dude, I said it again, I'm sorry. Like Jim Jones. That's what they do. They lie and they cover up things and they prey on the weak to make themselves feel more powerful. And then they said that these people that emailed me said that there was no proof of anything going on with Jehovah's Witnesses and child abuse. Well, that's a lie, because if you look that up, there's a whole bunch of it. And I've got some articles here, but I'm only going to share one because this really bothers me when I talk about it. It makes me sick to my stomach. And I actually drove by the Kingdom Hall today in my town, and I looked. There are 3 windows that are darkened from the inside out, very small windows facing the front, none on the sides, and then 3 on the back facing a large brick wall, which is then like it's like a foundation wall that, you know, like when you dig into a hill and you put one of those border walls up to hold the hill back, retaining wall. So there is no windows. It's just dark in there. And it was just like, I drove by it and I was like, that's the loneliest, creepiest looking building. And it's strangely placed in a industrial part of my town. It's on an island. It's called Prine's Island, and it's on that island. It's just the very strangest thing. So I mean, right here, I just proved the 24 emailers that emailed me, not counting the two that were very respectful. Yes, even the ones that were not, that were hammering on Bo, they were still respectful, strangely respectful, like robotically respectful. Just, it was creepy. I was like, dude, I wanted to wash my eyes and my hands after reading them. So I found this. The prevalence of Jehovah's Witness child sexual abuse. While there are no definitive statistics that show how often sexual abuse in children happen in Jehovah's Witness community, more and more survivors are coming forward about their experiences. Over the years, countless articles and news reports have been published telling the stories of many survivors of Jehovah's Witness sexual abuse, as well as numerous accusations about the organization hiding and failing to report incidences of child sexual abuse to authorities. Here's what you need to know. From the United Kingdom and Australia to the United States and other countries, many survivors who endured child sexual abuse under the Jehovah's Witness organization have been speaking up. In one report by the Royal Commission of Australia, they examined allegations and reports of CS abuse by 1,006 members of the Jehovah's Witness organization. So that's 1,006 kids that were just brave enough to come forth. Brave enough. The report states the Royal Commission, and that was only in Australia, found children are not adequately protected from the risk of CSA in the Jehovah's Witness organization and does not believe the organization responds adequately to CSA. In July of 2021, Erwin Zelkin of Zelkin Law Firm interviewed with ABC Australia's Weekly Four Corners about the prevalence of CSA in the Jehovah's Witness congregation worldwide. You can view the full episode and Erwin's statements by visiting here. Just look up ABC Australia and type in Zelkin, Zalkin. There's a secret database of CSA predators that the Jehovah's Witnesses had. An article published by The Atlantic reports that the Jehovah's Witness organization had a secret database of CSA cases that were kept hidden for decades. It further explains that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society was concerned about the legal ramifications the organization could face with possible predators amongst their congregation. As a result, detailed memos were issued to all of the United States and select worldwide congregations with instructions on how to deal with reports and allegations of CSA. The instructions including writing a detailed report by answering a series of questions about the abuse claims and mail it to the Watchtower headquarters in a special blue envelope. Copies of these reports were kept in the congregation's confidential files. The information was not permitted to be shared with anyone, but now documents have been exposed by former Jehovah's Witness members. So here's the deal, and here's the reason why I'm putting this up, is because Bo is brave, and all of those other 1,006 people that was mentioned just in this article, I'm sure more have come out since this writing. Actually, this was from September of 2021. So I'm not going to have 24 emails sent to me discrediting these brave people. And if I get them, I will respond. But I obviously know that he is telling the truth because, and I believed him right from the beginning. But when he said, hey, things will kind of get a little weird, bud, it did. With those emails, it was creepy, man. It was really creepy. And, people trying to discredit him about Bible or about the pyramids and this and that and not being a cult. And well, I just read you 3 articles pretty much stating everything he said was true. And you can't deny it. I've been thinking about a way of helping these people, that the survivors. And I think I'm going to contact an attorney that works with the CSA survivors, and maybe just on this channel, and talk to him about possibly setting up like a GoFundMe for people that have been abused, not just in the Jehovah's Witness cult, but in any very strange religious organization that is cult-like, to help pay for legal fees, because it needs to, something needs to be done. And if that's the one thing that I can do, is have a platform and share so we become aware, then that's the one thing I can do. I was just disgusted when I got those emails, and not from, and I'm saying it again, not from the 2, because the 2 that emailed me have been subscribers for a while, and they were very polite too, oddly polite as well. But I don't know if they were covering things up or not. But all I know is he was telling the truth, and if I know someone's telling the truth, I'm going to back him 100%. And I will go to bat for that person always. So with that, I'm going to end today's upload. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Please be kind to each other, and may the Great Spirit watch over all of us, and may he guide us down that path that we call life. Until a little bit later on the paranormal side, my friends.